Well, hello everyone. Mike with Spray Jones coming to you with another video on spray foam installation. If you're new to this channel or checking out the content for the first time, my name is Mike. I'm the owner of Spray Jones, and I produce and make content on spray foam installation. It's my guys, my equipment, and my foam that you're seeing being sprayed. We're a contractor in Canada, and we're educating sprayers, the industry, homeowners, architects, engineers, anybody and everybody that watches these videos on spray foam installation, closed cell and open cell. Today's video is probably a very important subject because it's on the back of everybody's mind all the time, and that is, I think my foam might smell. Does my foam smell? Is that what I'm smelling? Is that what's bothering me? Let's dive into what to do about it if this is you. The first thing to determine is knowing what you've got. To avoid having smelly foam, you hire a good contractor. You know the pedigree of the product. You should know what product is being installed, who makes it. You should be able to look it up. You should have a data sheet. You should have a quote referencing what you're getting. The spray foam installer should follow through and install with you what they said. They shouldn't get a deal on something on last week and be trying out for the very first time something different than what you agreed upon. All right? So that's a big red flag to avoid having issues. You should be able to verify and know what your product is. So do you have half-pound foam or do you have 2-pound foam? Is it open cell or is it closed cell? Open cell is light and fluffy. You can rip it out with your bare hands. 2-pound foam, very dense, weighs 2 pounds per cubic foot. You need, a crowbar and a chisel and a hammer kind of thing to dig it out. Why is this relevant? Well, most, not all, but most open cell half-pound foam chemistry is not a perfect blend, so the drum needs to be mixed. So there's a separation ability inside the drum, similar to that what you'd get with any paint. So you know how you need to mix paint up before you roll it out or paint it out or spray it out? The same is true with open cell foam. So an agitator goes into the drum, and the drum is usually mixed for 5, 10, 15 minutes prior to it being sprayed. And then what's in the lines, like if it's sat overnight with product in the lines, you're going to pump that stuff out of the lines, out of the machine, get fresh product that has just been stirred and agitated. You're going to get all the stuff that's in the lines back into drums so that from drum to gun, everything can be a well-mixed product. The reason this is relevant is that if the guy set up with open cell foam half-pound and didn't mix the drum or didn't keep mixing the drum, you have the ability over many hours to either have the product settle out, and then the chemistry is not 100% correct. Just like paint, you wouldn't expect to open a paint can and not mix any of it, pour it into your bucket, your tray, and start painting. Closed cell foam is not that way. It's a full-on blend. It's blended. It doesn't need to be mixed. You keep the cap on the drum like you would on a paint can, and you're good to go. So the first flag is what kind of product is it, and then why. But you should not be generally having odors, strong odors, within 24 hours of it being sprayed. Now, there is some leeway based on what the environmental conditions are inside the house, the structure of the building. I've seen in new construction where the building is fairly well sealed up, the windows, the doors, the roof is on, everything else has been sealed, and now you've gone and sealed it with foam, and then there's absolutely no HVAC system whatsoever moving the air around, that it's not uncommon to crack the door open a day later, 2 days later, and there'd be a faint odor. But that dissipates quickly as soon as the building is aerated. That generally is not a problem, because once the building has had a chance to extinguish the air and stay exchanged, it goes away and it stays away. All right. Where it becomes a problem is when you're exchanging air, and the second that the air exchanges down, you've got odors, noticeable odors. That's where you're going to have some red flags. So you should also not be affected by temperature, where on cold, cool, rainy, overcast days, everything's fine. Then as soon as the sun comes out, beats down on everything, and it gets real stinky in the house. That's a red flag. That's a problem. So it's normal for there to be slight momentary odors, ever so slightly, when you've opened up a sealed area. But I found that with most and I mean most, I'm talking 99%, better than 99%, structures, closed and open cell, the foam dissipates. There's no smell within a day or two once you've had it aerated. If there's a constant odor, and it's affected by temperature, it's affected by environmental seasonal conditions, you can't seem to change it based on moving the air through, well then you've got an issue and it needs to be addressed. So the first thing you do is you contact your spray foam company, you get them back out, and be civil with them, be patient with them, and have them examine it. And then they're going to defer and hopefully contact their supplier. Now, if your spray foam company is ignoring you and you don't feel that they're being truthful, honest, or forthright, then you're going to have to go and get in contact with the supplier. Now, so this is why it's important to understand what product you were getting. If you were getting, Jim's foam, and it's a brand name, well, then you can contact the actual manufacturer, and they're more than likely going to be sending out a representative at that point to do the third thing, which is going to be cutting samples and examining them. So very quickly, if the foam is a problem, you're going to take a couple of randomized samples, walls, roof, whatever you've had sprayed, cut into it, cut the foam, see what the cell structure is going to be like, see what the adhesion is going to be like. Very quickly, you're going to be able to tell a number of things: mix, adhesion, cohesion if it's multiple passes, and then, of course, obviously odor. Now, foam, it's normal for foam to have a very slight odor for just a few seconds when you cut into it. Why? Because you're breaking the cell structure open, you're breaking what's trapped inside the cells and letting it escape. So there's like a momentary, if you snapped it or something like that, had it in your hands, broke it into two pieces, held it right away up to your nose, you'd smell a slight odor. But what it shouldn't be is like stinking in your hands, very distinct. Ooh, I can smell it. I put it down, I come back to it, I can smell it, there's a smell on my hands. That's all a problem, right? And that's self-evident. Anybody can see that. But the real way to test it is take the samples, put them in the Ziploc bag, close the bag up, leave it be for a little while, and then open the bag back up, take the samples out, smell the bag right away. Is there an odor? Now, you got to be careful because Ziploc bags have an odor to them themselves. They have a slight, plastic smell, especially when they're brand new, especially when they keep being sealed up repeatedly. So there is a slight odor that can throw things off. But foam should not have a fishy smell. It should not have a harsh chemical smell to it. These are all fairly distinct odors that people can describe very, very quickly and very easily. So samples are going to be cut. They're going to be bagged. Suppliers and companies that are honest will be able to say right away, hey, something's gone wrong. They can have the foam sent out and tested. They can see where the chemistry is at, where the ratios are at. There should be a lot number. There should be a pedigree. There should be a tracing. In Canada, we do daily work logs. That's mandatory. Our products are CCMC certified. That means there's a pedigree from the supplier. And there's what's called a retain. So the suppliers retain samples for X amount of months after it's been sold. So they can pull the retain and they can see how many are in that batch, 200-300 drums that they ran off. They can run the sampling. They can see. Now, if it's nothing wrong with the foam and it was wrong with the installation, well, then that's going to come down to your spray foam company. And a really good question when you're looking to hire somebody is, if they've got insurance, they should have a couple of $1 million of commercial general liability insurance and what have you that's going to cover them in the event that everything went wrong for somebody. Then it's not wrong on you. Now, something to know about with odors in construction, there can be a lot of competing fragrances in structures, glues, paints, primers, different solvents and adhesives that are used on all sorts of different things, even kitchen cabinets, particle boards, you name it, flooring. And a lot of people take for granted that stuff does have an odor to it. They think that it doesn't. So what I'm saying is that when you have sprayed foam, you should be knowing whether or not there's a distinct or there's an issue, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day out. Okay? Not the guys were here 2 months ago. Now we've had a whole lot of other work done, and now I want to start thinking that there's an odor. Okay? You want to be addressing this up front early on. and preferably, before your sheetrock is up. There shouldn't be an issue before you start covering everything up and make it harder to get at, to look, to inspect, to verify. And also, I've seen it where the next trade is in, there's one thing to another thing to another thing stacked on top of each other, and they want to say, okay, well, maybe it's the foam. And the foam always gets blamed, folks. It really does. I've seen situations where people have come in with very strong odor paints, painted ductwork, painted trusses, painted a large portion of the building based on what the homeowner wanted. And then, they were sitting there saying, well, there's odor coming through the ducts. And here it was all the painting that they had done on the ductwork, and they're sitting there thinking that it's the spray foam. So the spray foam generally gets a bad rap. I've seen ducting that has been painted letting off odors even 4 or 5 months later, where when they turn it on, it's only when they get the ducting up to a certain temperature that it's been painted that there's a bit of an odor. And then in that situation, they just continually aired the house out. The house was so airtight, had insulated concrete form basement, spray foam walls, spray foam roof, high quality windows. It was a seasonal residence. They didn't use it very much, and they didn't let the equipment run at all when they weren't there. So yeah, the system had a slight odor to it, and of course they were thinking that it was a spray foam's issue, and it wasn't. It was just the painted ductwork and trusses and all the other stuff that they had done. Once they aired the house out continuously throughout the summer months, the problem went away and never came back. So understand what's the odor source. And then the final thing is this, and then people aren't really going to like me saying this, but some people are high maintenance, and some people are always smelling something. And they will come to you later and say, I think it's this, I think it's that. They're also affected by candles, perfume, anything and everything. Everything bothers them. And people that are looking necessarily for a problem, like if you get freaked out and think you're going to have a problem, then generally you are. And I have encountered that. I have encountered it where people have thought that the spray foam is an issue. And my answer to that is you can do indoor air quality testing if you really want to push the buttons hard. But there's a lot of compounding things inside of a home. Flooring, there's cabinets and stain, there's paint, there's carpets, there's glues, adhesives, and radon. We're starting to find that radon coming up through basement floors and crawl space floors into homes can affect people and can create them to feel that they are smelling certain odors, even though the gas itself is largely colorless, odorless, and all have you. But if you're having weird symptoms and issues, you need to start to look more than just the spray foam itself. You need to look at the total assessment of what's going on inside of the home, because a very well sealed up home, anything that gets into it will stay into it. So if you are having radon discharge from the basement, from the crawl space up into the living space, it can be very difficult to deal with that until you get that sealed off and stop its dissipation. And it dissipates worse into the homes in the wintertime, because a lot of times in cold climates, the ground is frozen and there's nowhere for it to dissipate except up into residences easily. So get it on the record, get it investigated, and don't let your mind run away with you. If I can give you any piece this far into the video, it's be patient and get your information and get your facts before you jump to crazy conclusions. All right? Comment, share, like, and subscribe. Send this to somebody that needs to see it, and I will catch you on another video soon.